Every year when Easter is approaching, it does bring back only one bad memory of this holiday. But other than that, I had so many happy memories of the Easter holiday. But this particular year, it really frightened me for a while after. It was when I encountered a fake Easter bunny. This happened when I was about 10 years old. My name is Emily, by the way. It all happened when me, my mom, and my younger brother went to the park for our town's annual egg hunt. When we showed up, there were at least kids there already, and some of them were actually friends of mine from school. Before we started, we were given a basket and then we were allowed to walk around in the park to find some of the candy eggs that had been hidden. My mom took my brother and I went with my friend Kelly. We found a lot of eggs actually at the first, but at one point we actually went separate ways. It was because that we wanted to find some more. I at first couldn't find much any at all, even despite how much I looked on the ground, on the bushes, no matter where I looked. If I can remember correctly, my basket was probably half full, and I wanted more. But it was then when I encountered the Easter Bunny. I remember there were no Easter Bunny at the beginning that when we were allowed to go look around for the eggs. Of course, he could have been a task to being hidden in the park to look after us when we find the eggs that he has been hidden. So I was really curious to know why he suddenly, you know, revealed himself to me. If he was tasked to be hidden, not to be seen by anyone, he told me to follow him since he knew where to find some more candy. And I was like, wow, really? And even though I didn't say that, but I just followed him. And we left the park and we ended up in a parking lot to a van, which the door, the side door, was open. Sure enough, there were at least a few bags of candy in there already. I was like, this is the heaven. But he told me to get in. But then I heard a voice behind me, and it was my mom. She was calling for me. And the bunny heard her voice, and he suddenly pushed me, and I fell on my butt on the ground, and he closed the door and hopped in the van and drove off. My mom saw the bunny and managed to get his license plate number. I mean, I was really caught off guard. I had no idea why suddenly he acted like this. If he was the real Easter Bunny, I wasn't really sure what happened. I mean, I was just 10 years old, and he did have candy in the van, but I was later told that he was caught shortly later on that day. I did try to ask my mom even the same day why, or at least what happened. I was clueless. But of course, she didn't tell me. Only that he was a bad bunny, which in my mind then didn't make sense. But some years ago, I did ask my mom a little bit more about that day. She then revealed all that. He was actually looking forward to find a kid to kidnap, which makes a lot of sense now. I mean, that is just the more typical kidnapping schemes a kidnapper would try to do with kids, luring them with candy and all that stuff. And I wasn't really taught of the strange danger warnings as a kid, which I wished I had been. But when I have kids, I will definitely tell them my story, and also teach them about strange danger. So yeah. And for the man who almost kidnapped me, I really hope you to stay away from that attempts even ever again. So yeah, that was my scary Easter holiday. My name is Jackie. I have always loved Easter, still do, especially when I'd have about the candy. But Easter was even much bigger for me when I was a kid, especially during our town's annual egg hunt at the park. It was something I look forward to every single year. But this particular time when I was about 11 was the final year when I ever did that. You may understand why. I went to the park with my parents for the egg hunt. I've been looking forward to this the whole week. I saw there was a lot of many other kids there, and we walked around to find the eggs that's been hidden away. After half an hour, I found at least about a dozen of eggs already, but I wanted to find more. But since there were at least so many kids walking around, it was probably not that easy to find any more eggs, since I at first don't know exactly how many eggs I were hidden. But as I just look around, it was then I saw this. An Easter bunny walked up to me, and he said that he would give me so much candy that I wanted if I went with him. And I was just like, okay. I mean, I know for a fact that the year before, they actually had a man dressed as an Easter bunny. So I thought maybe they had this year also. So I went with them. So we went to a spot, and sure enough, there was a lot more candy than I could have imagined. Not only chocolate eggs that I already had, but some other candy as well. But I got so excited, but I stopped in my tracks. It was then my parents' stranger danger teaching kicked in. It was something odd. The Easter bunny, who was part of the event, would just simply just give me all this candy to me. I mean, there was a lot more candy than I could even carry by myself. If there was so much, why give it just to one kid when he could just simply get together to other kids that all been had taken part of this egg hunt already? So I made my decision. So I said it was fine with the candy I already had. And I could hear that the Easter bunny sounded a bit sad and a bit upset. I turned around, and as I was just probably just only about a half distance away from him, then he suddenly yelled to me to stop and come back. That made me to run, and I did. But I could hear him running after me as well. But eventually, I don't know exactly how far he stopped, but he did. Some of the other parents saw this, and they surrounded the man. He tried to act that we were playing, but the other parents didn't buy the story at all because they could see I was clearly terrified. I mean, I was gasping for air, and I was shaking. Even my own parents was that. They could see I was terrified. They later called for police, which escorted him away. Turned out he had a warrant for his arrest for kidnapping. I was told by that since I was, well, old enough to at least understand what kidnapping was. And it turned out this Easter Bunny man was at least in his 40s. And the year after, when my parents asked me if I wanted to go to the egg hunt that year, I bluntly said no, I didn't want to go. They understood after what happened the year before, so instead, we decided to stay home, and they gave me some candy for Easter, which was a compromise. But I'm hoping at least that I don't have to let my future kids to experience the same thing as that I did. Thank you all for listening. Hi, my name is Rosie. I've always loved Easter ever since I was a kid. Especially even if I was given the candy by my parents or if I did egg hunt. But there was only one time on the Easter holiday that terrified me, but not only by myself, but also to include my younger brother Daniel. We were doing this together though. And at this time, I was 17 years old, so I was clearly too old for doing the egg hunt. But this particular year, my mom asked me if I want to go with her and Daniel to the park for the egg hunt. But I did point out I was too old for this. But she told me that I could just go with them as for company and to get some fresh air. I was like, sure, why not? So I did. But when we came to the park, she told me to go with my brother by instead for her. I asked her why. Then, then she told me mention about her back, and since we did walk a very short distance from our house to the park, so I was like, why not? And I just told her to sit down and rest, which she did and talked to my other parents. And Daniel told me that he would give me some of his candy eggs if I helped him. I was like, I told him that I would be okay with it, and Mom was as well. So he took a basket and we walked around, found some eggs, and he did tell me to help him if he couldn't reach some of the eggs, if they were hiding under beneath a little bit far under the bushes or something like that, and which I didn't mind. But eventually, his basket was about half full, and I did notice an older man in his 30s, and he was homeless apparently, and he saw us, and he walked up to us. He said that he knew there were a lot more candy eggs, and of course, when Daniel heard this, he lit up, and he wanted to follow him. But I had this gut feeling this wasn't right, because a homeless man would just simply just walk up to just two random kids, especially a teenager and a young one, and just offer more candy like that. I was like, no. I grabbed Daniel's arm and stopped him. I told him we would go somewhere else, and and I managed to stop him. Even though Daniel made a tantrum about this, but I was firm about it, and we just walked off. But the man then yelled out till we were going in a wrong direction and started following us. He started pointing out that we were going ahead in a wrong way, but I told him to leave us alone, and that made him apparently even more angry. But what else could I do? This was a complete stranger to me, and clearly it was just a complete dangerous situation. And he yelled to me that he was just waiting to want to make my brother happy. So he started to run after us. I picked up Daniel and carried him all the way and ran as fast as I could. But the man was right behind us. But I managed to get attention from other people in the area, but somehow the man even stopped. In fact, he just continued. And eventually, I heard a thud behind us. But I didn't stop until I was approaching my mom. And then I turned around and turned out that a man tackled this homeless man and held him down. The man was eventually taken away by the police. And not to be insured about this, but Daniel, he was way too terrified. The police asked me what happened, since Daniel was apparently too terrified, so he couldn't just say much. But I told them what happened. And, well, I told Daniel afterwards that the man won't hurt us. And even though he was scared, but after this happened, we went straight home. Of course, Daniel was terrified even that day and a few days afterwards. I don't blame him for that though. Even later the same day after we came home from the egg hunt, I went to the nearest convenience store, bought some candy for my brother to comfort him, which helped. But from that day on, ever since then, when I went with my brother for the next egg hunts for the years to come, I was always on high alert to make sure none of this would have happened ever again. Which hasn't. Good thing for that, too. And that's my story. Thanks for listening.